All right, we are back,
We are live,
finishing up.
sweetie pies.
Yeah, we are live, sweetie pies, and we are finishing up our broadcast of the season preview. And
The,
so this is
the
part two.
basically the appetizer for the greatest Bengals season since 2017.
Yeah, that is a nice way of putting it. Speaking of 2017, the Bengals were dead last in yards on offense, and they're 26th in points. And that is why today we are going to talk about if they can get back to that 2015 form, and they can be a top 10 offense, be a really good offense. Now, in 2015, they were seventh in points. Now, I know, okay, that was a great year, and then, Eifert didn't play that much in 2016. A lot of things went wrong, but they were still 13 in total yards in 2016. So we've seen this regression. Then we get to 2017, and we have that disastrous first two games. And then Bill Lazor comes along, and in his very first game as offense, get this, his first game as offensive coordinator, the Bengals score a touchdown. I mean, that is a sign right there,
It's a
that
sign from
things
the
right.
heavens.
Yeah, so they score a touchdown and things look better. And actually, Joe Goodberry, who was supposed to be on this preview, but unfortunately, it's been hard to coordinate with him. He had a tweet about common and uncommon opponents. It's a really interesting theory he has about common and uncommon opponents. Now, by common, he means someone that the Bengals have played in that year or the previous year. And Andy Dalton generally does a lot better against uncommon opponents. But after Bill Lazor took over, things flipped because, he was using more RPOs. He was, basically Lazor is a more innovative kind of thinker than we've seen at offensive coordinator. So do you guys think that we can take that big leap forward? And look, we got, Joe Mixon, we got John Ross finally playing. We got Eifert healthy for now, right? We got Josh Malone in the second year. We've made a little bit of improvement on the offensive line. Do you think we can? I know we're going to get better. Okay, let's get that out of the way.
Yeah,
Do you think we
yeah.
can get a lot better? Like go,
You got this, John, or should I
No,
step
I
in?
want to hear your take first.
Oh wow, this is a privilege and an honor. Well, let me just say that I think what we're about to see, for better or for worse, this is the year of Bill Lazor. This is his time. This is really he's stepping up to the scales. They're about to weigh him. His muscles are twitching, and he's about to show us what he's got. And I think what he's got is good. I'm optimistic about Bill Lazor. I think the little things and the big things are signs of him showing his weight, throwing his weight around, and showing himself in the coaching staff. That I'm talking about the Hackenberg hire, which is really questionable. I mean, he drops Woods, they drop the Woods side, and they pick up the Hackenberg. But I think partly it's because what Lazor's trying to do here is bring in a sense of simplicity, and what makes Lazor an offensive coordinator that's a little bit different than the others we've had, and especially different than Zampese, is Lazor presents, he does things simply, but he makes it look sort of complex. And that's what the Bengals players seem to respond to. They was too complicated with Zampese. And I think that the people that he's bringing in, the people that he wants to work with, are people who get that. That's my take.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think Lazor has truly brought this offense from the ground up and just kind of installed his own system. I think it was Brandon LaFell way back, like in the beginning of August, before he was released, who said the system is very similar to the classic Air Coral system, which is a lot of downfield passing and vertical attacks and vertical concepts and that kind of stuff. And we kind of saw that against Buffalo kind of take shape because they had the pieces to push the ball down the field and create more explosive plays. And we talked about on the last episode of the season preview why explosive plays matter and why they correlate to wins. So if they can they were like one of the worst teams last year in moving the ball down the field. And if they can improve there, it will do much more for just getting more points on the board and increasing drives, because they also had the least amount of plays of any offense in the league last year. So there's nowhere to go but up for them because of how awful they were last year. And they have the pieces to be a good modern offense and a good modern offensive scheme run by Lazor. It's just the issues in run blocking need to be worked around, and they need to scheme around those issues up there if they want to completely take that next step. Because, passing the ball is great, But at the same time, Andy Dalton's not the kind of guy who can throw the ball 30 to 40 times a game and win consistently. He's not like, Peyton Manning back in the day, or Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, or anything like that. So you still need support there, and they need to find a way to work around it, I guess.
And John, you say you were talking about how bad they were. I mean, they were 454 total yards worse than the Browns.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was
that's amazing. It was a bad year.
Well, John, you talk about the running the ball, and that has been our problem. And I pointed this out last year. A lot of people just said, "Oh, the offensive line is terrible." Okay, fine, but the pass blocking was still better than the run blocking even last year, right? And the run blocking is not something. Me and John, all of us, we talked about this. It's not something you can scheme around. You can't finagle your way around bad offensive linemen in the run game like you can in the pass game. Of course, there have been cases in NFL history where a running back has been such a hard runner that that sometimes the running back makes the line, and we can hope for that. But
it's like picking the wrong line at the supermarket. There's just nothing you can do. Once you get there, that's what you got. But
but sometimes you can just kind of keep pushing, and then you push people out of the line, and that's what I'm saying. Sometimes the running back is so good. It's such a hard runner that he can develop. The running game develops because of him. It's possible, but
Mixon is astounding. Mixon is by far the shining light. People are excited about Ross, and I'm a little bit excited, hopefully, about Ross. I don't have high expectations, but because maybe it's going to be part of that fast tempo that Lazor's trying to get across. But really, it's Mixon who was the sunshine of our last year's season. But I want to talk about the offensive line because I know that's something that John knows a lot about and is into. This Frank Pollock guy. I'm kind of impressed by some of the. I'm guessing he's the one who's been pushing for some of the, the changes in the line and the personnel. But also, I was looking at his history and what he's done in the past at the Cowboys and elsewhere, and I mean, the guy seems to have it right. I mean, what do you think about Pollock?
I think that when he was with Dallas, he didn't have the control and the power and the influence to draft offensive linemen like Paul Alexander did in Cincinnati. So he was gifted with a lot of talent on the offensive line, and he's still a good coach, and he made it work. And it's just a stark going from Dallas to Cincinnati. The change in personnel up there, besides Cordy Glenn at left tackle, was astounding, and he had a lot of work to do. And it's hard for a position coach to just come in one off season and completely, improve everybody and make everybody better players. And I think that was kind of the expectation with Pollock, and it was kind of unfair for us to think that was going to be possible, because we have seen that while the left side of the line is fine, in all phases of the game, the right side is still very questionable. And it's not like Pollock would just snap his fingers and everybody would be fine. There's still issues at right tackle. Alex Redmond's going to start at right guard, and he's only done that twice in his life, and we don't know if he's going to be a consistent player at that position. But we were talking about Mixon and Adam Spinks, who at RB Scout, he was supposed to come on the show, but unfortunately couldn't. I actually found out from him that Mixon had the most work to do behind last year's offensive line compared to any other running back in terms of yards created by himself. So there were
point before tackle.
Before
the tackle point. He was
before the tackle point. He was completely screwed by penetration from defensive lines because we just lost up front. And Dadio, you talked about how you can't scheme around bad run blocking. But what the Bengals can do is that they can put their running backs in better positions to run against lighter boxes to keep that congestion out of there, so the Bengals have more opportune chances to rush against 5-6 man boxes, which is obviously much easier. And that's just the way that the NFL is going right now. We're spreading things out and keeping guys out of the box so we can have that threat to run and pass.
Well, okay, John, excellent point. I was trying to get to that before Hodgie got on the whole grocery shopping analogy, but you've made this point before about the spreading things out. And actually today, Goodberry retweeted Bob Sturm, who's also at the Athletic. So it's basically like Goodberry's on the show. I'm taking so much from him, but
he's here in spirit.
Yeah, he's here in the spirit. And about the 2000 NFL rushing average with defenders in the box. With 5 men in the box, 6.33 yards per carry. 6 men, 4.75. 7 men, 4.1. 8 men, 3.78. 9 men, 3.44. Point is, fewer people in the box, obviously, it doesn't just make a difference. It's almost twice the difference from 9 and 5 men. And, spreading it out, like you said, with this team, it's starting to make more and more sense, both because I know if you look at the production of our receivers, in the recent weeks, in recent years, since Marvin Jones and Sanu left, you think, okay, we don't really have anybody who stands out. But there is so much in terms of the physical ability of these guys, not just John Ross, but Josh Malone has great physical ability. I really like, and Auden Tate can contribute for sure as well. I think that, and Andy Dalton thrives when he has a lot of people to throw to. And I see in the comments that Christopher Shepard has made this exact same point a number of times in our chat. And I want to encourage all of our friends who are here, because there's 25 people watching right now. That's like, what is that? What percentage of America is watching right now, John?
Well,
I can't even get,
It's like 25% of America.
Well, no,
it's not that much, but it's a lot of people. There's 25. Well, it's 26 for a second now. That person left, but it's 25 again. So we have 25 people watching right now. So I want you to leave your comments and tell us what you think and what we should kind of talk about. This is why
Fox Sports is losing, because more people are just watching us and changing the channel. We can get on Fox Sports at this rate.
Maybe. Now here's the thing. The offensive line is important, but it's also kind of boring. So when we go back to Andy Dalton, and we go back to AJ Green, and we go back to John Ross, and we go back to the different, as they call them, weapons that exist. In that sense, even though I know the offensive line is a question mark, it's something we're hopeful about. And I'm going back to, John, your tweet from August where you comment that they were particularly weak on the outside zone and things like that, or weren't equipped for outside zone defense. But when I look at those weapons, I think this could be very well the best year we've had since 2015. It could be even as good as 2015. I don't know, what are we lacking that we had in 2015, other than, yes, we had a really more talent at the offensive line.
Yeah, I think talent is really important to performance. I think it's one of the major factors. I want to take a couple of questions from here. So someone's asking, Austin Tran is asking, do you think Bill Lazor is going to be as good as Hugh Jackson and Jay Gruden? I don't know if he's as...
Hugh wasn't all that good for us.
Well, okay, here's what I'll say. What did he offer the most? I think it was the demeanor, the change in demeanor that we saw from Dalton. I think it was the confidence he gave Dalton. And we have seen that Bill Lazor has done what Bengals management does not want to do, and that is make Dalton feel uncomfortable. Now, I know you say confidence, feel uncomfortable, but no. Dalton, as a result of him making him feel uncomfortable in practice, not, as in terms of challenging his job, because no one would ever do that in the Bengals franchise, but in terms of getting him more accustomed to dealing with pressure, getting him to, they're looking more for those big plays, because Dalton missed on a lot of those last year, those big plays down the field. I can't remember a worse year for Dalton in terms of missing big plays down the field. And Bill Lazor has not been shy about, hey, Dalton, you got to work on this, man. He hasn't just been coddling him.
Right.
And so I think in terms of the demeanor, because with Dalton, yes, he doesn't have the best arm.
Less of a Geppetto and more of a Stromboli, if you want to use
that. Yeah, I mean, Dalton doesn't have the best arm, but his biggest weakness by far is that he mentally...
He doesn't stand strong in the pocket.
He doesn't stand strong in the pocket, yeah.
No, he gets skittish. Real quick.
And I think that was obviously a focal point from Lazor, and just in the limited time that we've seen him out in the preseason, I think he's done better at keeping his head up and not scrambling with his feet, keeping his feet set to make some throws down the field, even if plays aren't open in the beginning. But like you said with Hugh Jackson and how that was just kind of like a chemistry fit, I think that the best offensive coordinators by far are the guys who are most open to change and the most open to adapt their scheme with the personnel around them. And I think what's important is that Lazor has found a system that works with the guys that he has, and is a system that Dalton is obviously comfortable with. And the more comfortable that he's with, like we saw with Hugh Jackson, the more consistent that he is, and we won't have these disastrous performances that are will lead to losses.
Well, and look, Dalton is a very cerebral guy. And Dalton's problems really on the field have been all mental, and being sort of feeling out overpressured and thinking too much, overthinking. And so the Lazor is in his head, and I think gets that. But the other thing about the interesting part about that question is it reminded me of something we haven't talked about yet. what is going on with John Gruden's obsession? The man has a man crush, I would say, on the Cincinnati Bengals roster and on our coaching staff. I mean, this guy.
Well, he's from Sandusky, Ohio, and his brother. We gave him the best opportunity of his life. So
I mean, this past week they've taken like everybody we dropped almost.
Yeah.
You know, they took the Guns.
Well, I've noticed on the broadcast that he does. He's very high on a lot of our guys. I think he just believes in it. He loves Vontaze. He loves Vontaze. Yeah.
Oh, he does, and he thinks Marvin Lewis is a genius when it comes to like drafting and bringing people in. That's clear.
Well, I want to address the comment section again, if it's okay. So first of all, we have one of our longtime viewers, Ox, who's angry Cincy fan on Twitter.
It's good to be angry, but
yeah, but he said he's here, but he's driving. Ox, look, man, this is gonna be up later. You can just watch it after the show. Please
pull over.
Drive. Yeah, well,
pull over, put the blinkers on, enjoy it, be safe.
Pull over, and then just maybe you can just pull over and tell everybody else on the highway, hey, tune into this show, because we're at 29 viewers now. So maybe.
I mean, if you have a Tesla, there's the auto drive pilot, but
yeah. But and then let's see. Okay, talking about John Ross's hands and his inconsistent things. I think
John Ross's problem is that he's too fragile. He's not going to last the whole season. Neither is Eifert. Don't put your hopes in either.
Well, I just want to say about John Ross's hands, and John, you probably watched him more in college, but I don't see his hands as being an issue, right? So. No. I see what I see is, have you guys read? I'm sure you read that article by Jim Ozarski, right, about John Ross. You read that?
Yeah.
He was going through so much all at once. Like he was thinking about quitting football.
Poor guy.
So what I want to say is now he's coming back. He's the number 9 pick, right? We have this terrible thing on offense, and some guy puts a YouTube video of his highlights. It's just one play. All this thing is just eating away at him.
Wait, right? that was you.
Well, it was our channel. Yeah.
We don't know who did it.
Yeah.
But no, if John, look, if you're listening, man, it was more just kind of a state of the Bengals kind of situation thing. It wasn't about you.
Everybody was upset that John Ross wasn't playing and things like that. But I got my doubts. But.
Well, no, he had, but anyways, he had it's interesting. Right after that video went up, he posted to, I think, Instagram highlights of the practice where he looked amazing. Basically, what we're seeing now. What I want to say is he was going through a lot mentally. And now it's like everybody's like, oh, he's a bust. He's trying so hard to prove because it's not that he can play, it's that he can really play. Like his cutback ability, his moves, and all this stuff. I know people are gonna think, okay, Bengals home or whatever. I can't remember too many players. I can think of Deion Sanders, those kind of guys. Like the way he can move that quick at that speed, I can't think of many people. My point is, when you're that talented and you know it, you're so excited to show it. Like that, there was that, it was like a 15-yard slant or something, right, John, where he dropped it and it could have been a touchdown, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, because he didn't use his hands. And I think that's still a confidence issue.
Because he knew he had a big open field in front of him. He was trying to get the 80-yard play.
You're just thinking 2 steps ahead, and sometimes, and that's all a part about the game just being really fast for younger players and stuff. But he dominated in college, and he was more than just a deep threat. He led Washington in touchdowns. Was like 17. He was one of the best red zone threats in college football in his last year there. So he's way more than I think people remember him being, just because he became a meme for like injuries and that one fumble, and it just took a toll on him. And that's something that we just don't think about when careers don't start the way that players expect them to, and it's how they bounce back, how they come back from that adversity. And I think that he's mentally capable of doing just that, because he's a father, he's a grounded individual, he's a great human being, and the Bengals have instilled a sense of confidence in him by releasing Brandon LaFell, putting him out there across from opposite of AJ Green on the outside, and just letting him do what he does best. And they're not going to stop feeding him. And I think that's what's important, is that these guys have to learn by making mistakes, and he's made the mistakes to learn from.
But at the same time, John, I mean, it is the NFL, and feelings and niceness go away. But it's a tough sport. There are a lot of people who would do well in cross country or in archery or in paddle boat, fishing or whatever, and their bodies might be suited for all kinds of sports, but the NFL's got its own kind of toughness, it's got its own kind of rigor, it's got its own kind of difficulty that not everybody can take. John Ross is a fragile guy.
Well, look, I just real quick because
what do you think?
Well, John, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, he does have injury history, and that's just something that it's more luck than it's more bad luck than anything, I think. But 5'10", 5'11", 190, I don't think it's that huge of an issue to be worried about personally. But yeah, like if the Bengals can get like 12 games a year from Ross, it'll be worth it. I would think he might be healthy all the time.
Well, we have a comment from Mr. Sinister, and we are contractually obligated because he gave so much money to the Puppet Fund. I think we have to address his comments. Yeah. Mr. Sinister says, well, sometimes these mental blocks can follow players for a long time. That is true. But, John is a big believer in you are who you are, from your college days.
Players don't change.
Players don't change. And John Ross was not this player. So this is a temporary setback because of that heavy burden that he felt being the number 9 pick and then doing absolutely nothing. And I remember, I think a couple of people tweeted out, the history of people who did basically nothing their rookie years. It's not good. I knew that Ross would be, we haven't seen it yet, but I'm very confident he's going to be an exception because there are so many exceptional things to his bad rookie year. Now, we do have to wrap up, but real quickly, I want to bring up Adam Spinks. He was also supposed to be on this episode, but it didn't work out with his schedule. But he does great research on the running backs. He's the RB scout, I think, on Twitter. And John and I respect him a lot. Now, he compared the Bengals. He thinks they're going to take a huge leap forward. And he compares them to last year's Rams, who were one of the worst offensive teams in a very long time. He says, similarly, the Bengals last year was an anomaly. And he says, look, the Bengals will have about 1,000 more yards of offense than they had in 2017. He says, like Hodgie said, they were 454 yards worse than the Browns. And they ran less plays than those Rams who were terrible in 2016, which is the worst ever. And he says that Dalton, as much grief as Dalton gets, the Bengals from 2012 to 16, so from Dalton's second year, they averaged 5,644 yards per season, and then last year was only 4,488. So that's almost 1,200 yards worse than the average Dalton offense season. And of course, as we said, Adam Spinks is very high on Joe Mixon, and he realizes that it's the offensive line that hurt them. And yes, we are still not good at run blocking, but we are better. We've improved at 2 positions, center and left tackle. A little bit better with the running back like Joe Mixon. And, eventually, like I said, the middle of the season, maybe Westerman finally, whatever it is, he stops putting whoopee cushions under Marvin Lewis's chair. Whatever he's doing wrong, we start to see Westerman, we start to see the offensive line develop an identity behind Joe Mixon because we've seen it before. If that happens and the running game is even average, well, guess what? With those weapons and Dalton being able to kind of be the maestro and take advantage of them, we're going to be a top 10 offense, guys. I'm pretty confident.
I don't know. I think the defense is going to be good, though.
Yeah. All right. Any final comments? Because I know you guys have to go, and the 26 people watching now have probably got to get back to being with their families.
Yeah, you gotta get back on the road. Gotta drive safe.
Yeah. Any final comments, guys?
Regression is undefeated, and that's basically what you were saying with the offense. And the talent is there. I think the scheme is there. The schedule isn't that intimidating in terms of opposing defenses. They're going to be better. It's just a matter of certain guys staying healthy and stepping up to see how much better they are.
Yeah.
I'm with John on that one. Amen to John.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up part 2 of the season preview, and we'll do part 3 later on. Hopefully, 3rd time's the charm. We get Joe Goodberry on the show. And that is all we have for this episode. Remember, part 3, we're going to give our season predictions, and you're going to be pretty surprised by my prediction. And we will catch you then. SVT Pies.